Throughout all my time as an NBA fan, if I had to choose one player that throughout the last 8 or 9 years has disappointed me the most, it would have to be Andrew Wiggins. After a pretty damn good, albeit weird start to his career, Wiggins was looking like a future superstar. I say weird because he was very much not the player that he was expected to be. Wiggins in college was known for his defense and his slashing, but coming into the league, his defense sucked and he was more of a mid-range shooter. But regardless of him being not quite the player that he was expected to be, he was still very good. By his third year, he was averaging 23 points per game on 45% from the field, and it really looked like he was going to be a damn good player. So damn good that back nearly 3 years ago, I made this video that has 660 views where I said this.
Where Wiggins goes from here isn't easy to guess, but I do think he has the potential to be close to as good as Kobe.
I really don't think you guys understand how hard it is for me to share that clip. It's not because the take was bad, it was the quality of the video. That level of video quality should be punishable by death. That would be like the equivalent of me pulling out one of your middle school emo phase photos and putting it up online for at least 10,000 people to see. But yeah, it's safe to say that the hype around Wiggins was real, but after that 23 point per game season, you'll see a decent drop off, down to 18 a game on 44% shooting in 2018, then 18 again in 2019, this time on 41% shooting, which for a 6'8" long-armed athletic wing, that is a disgrace. So going into this year, Wiggins was seen as an inefficient scorer that hurt you in every other aspect of the game. Poor rebounder for his position and size, horrible defensive player, and couldn't even manage to average 3 assists a game. He was just a straight up bad player. People will look at his stats and say that he's been disappointing, but no, Andrew Wiggins was a terrible player for the last 2 years. But when you scroll down one more spot on Wiggins' stats, you will notice this year that Wiggins is balling the fuck out. He is currently averaging a career high in points, rebounds, assists, and field goal percentage. So it looks like Wiggins may be on the comeback, and I wanted to talk about if this comeback could be legit, and roll the late ass intro. To get an idea of how Wiggins became what looked like a bust, we have to look at the first couple of years of Wiggins' career and how he got here. But as a disclaimer, before I go into any of the other factors here, I want to say that Wiggins himself was the main factor in his failure. I'll dive more into that later, but I don't think we should forget that a lot of Andrew's shortcomings came from poor effort and a lack of hard work. But with that said, to open his career, Wiggins was completely given the green light. Being traded to Minnesota from Cleveland, there was no one on that team that you wanted taking more shots than Wiggins, because the roster was trash, so you might as well give the young guy some run. Wiggins averaged 14 shots a game, which was just behind Kevin Martin, who was got rid of mid-season because of that. With those 14 shots, he shot 44% from the field and averaged 17 points a game. He won Rookie of the Year, but even then, Wiggins was kind of disappointing as a rookie, specifically defensively, because coming out of Kansas, he was expected to be a lockdown defender day one, and he was pretty bad on that end. But the following year, with Karl Anthony Towns viewed as Andrew's future second option, which is hilarious in retrospect, Wiggins was still able to average 21 points a game with an improved field goal percentage, which led to him getting even more hype. He got it up to 23, dropped his field goal percentage, and still had not even marginally improved his weaknesses, which led the T-Wolves, a future dynasty in many people's eyes at that point, to trade for Jimmy Butler, moving a young shooting guard named Zach LaVine in the process. Now, I pointed out a bad take that I made in the past about Andrew Wiggins, so I think it's only fair that I point out one that I made that was correct, and I was criticized for. I made a video a few days after Jimmy was traded to the Timberwolves where I basically said that Jimmy Butler would hurt Andrew Wiggins in Minnesota. I did not mention Jimmy's personality and how he views the game and how that might impact Wiggins. I looked at it from a more X and O's perspective. My logic was these two guys were poor shooters, did not play off of each other well at all. They also like to play in similar areas of the court. If you looked at their shot attempts, they were pretty much exactly the same from the exact same spots. So I thought as scorers, stars, they would step on each other's toes. I thought they would clash, and Wiggins would suffer for it. And I was right. As soon as Jimmy came to town, his averages jumped down to just 18 points per game, and I was given shit for that prediction from Timberwolves fans who were just high on the move because they thought they were about to win a championship. So, suck it, I guess. The T-Wolves barely made the playoffs that year because of Butler getting injured, and in those playoffs, Wiggins put up 16 points on 44% shooting, and then everyone who blamed Wiggins sucking on Jimmy were real disappointed when he was even worse when Butler left. And with that, no one could have expected what happened this year. There was a hope that Butler being gone would fix the problem, but after he was traded, Wiggins got even worse. What is weird about Wiggins is he hasn't stagnated, he's actively gotten worse. Not just, oh yeah, he was kind of disappointing. No, he went from perceived as a future franchise player to decent backup scorer at best. But this year there have been some changes with Wiggins and some changes with the T-Wolves that have allowed said change. And all I want to say is this is clearly all on me for fixing Wiggins in my MyGM series with the T-Wolves. Clearly, I'm behind all of this. By the way, go watch that series. Even if you're not particularly a fan of 2K videos, if you enjoy basketball, I think you can enjoy those because I go in depth with trades and stuff. But for real, what I did in that series was I turned Wiggins into a point guard, and that made him finally a productive basketball player again. Now, the Wolves haven't officially put him at point guard. He's still playing small forward, but he has been used as a primary ball handler. His usage percentage is the highest it's been since his third season. I can't find any stats about how much the ball is actually in his hands, but I know it's more than it used to be by a considerable amount. With this, it solves the biggest problem that Andrew had on offense, and that was that he was a horrible off-ball player. When he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he has a tendency to just kind of float around and fall asleep until he gets the ball back. Very Russell Westbrook-esque. But when he has the ball, he is engaged. You really don't have any choice but to be when you have the ball. It's like how you can't fall asleep if you're the driver, but if you're a passenger, you can get away with it. Although technically you can fall asleep at the wheel, it's just not recommended. Another factor in this is that Andrew has been playing to his actual strengths, not what he thinks his strengths are. See, Wiggins over the past few years has played like he was a Kobe type offensively when he is really more of a Wade type offensively. Wade shot a considerable amount of mid-range shots, but it was not his go-to. Still a strength of his, but slashing was the foundation of his offense. Same thing goes for Wiggs. He's 6'8", has long arms, and he is freakishly athletic. He should be attacking the basket. That's what he's good at. His mid-range shots are down this year, and what used to be a long two for him in the past have been turning into threes this year, shooting a career high in threes a game, taking 6.5 a game on 34%. 34% is pretty meh, but you'd rather him be shooting 34% on a few more threes than 34% on a step in the line. He's also just straight up improved his ball handling, which makes you a whole lot more confident in him as a main ball handler. What I do think should actually be pointed out is that Wiggins had a rough start to the year. When you look at his stats by just the last 6 games, he's averaged 30 points and 5 assists. The 5 assists I find interesting because if he could just be a 4 to 5 assists a game guy while being a 20 to 25 point per game scorer, that would be massive for the Wolves. What I will say is the switch to making him a primary ball handler was to make him better, not because he couldn't be better without it, because he just wouldn't let himself be. He very clearly needed to be force-fed to be good, and that is a bad sign for Andrew's mindset as a player. And I really do think that he should be criticized for this in spite of finding some success. Like, you got your money and then you were fine sucking. That doesn't sit well with me, and because of that, I'm not quite ready to give Andrew the key to the fucking city. Another factor is the Wolves' new head coach, Ryan Saunders, who is the one that had the idea to move Wiggins into a primary ball handling position. He also has a more quiet and calm approach to coaching. He is quite different from Tom Thibodeau in that regard, who is known for his aggressive, old school mindset and yelling like he's a chain smoker. Wiggins has repeatedly said that he does not respond well to that type of coaching. So basically, in conclusion, this whole team was basically catered to make Andrew Wiggins finally be a good player. I do find it quite ridiculous that Wiggins needed all that for him to finally play well, but hey, just be happy with it, T-Wolves fans. But I have a question for you, the audience. Hey, what's up? Do you think Wiggins could completely erase the bust label this year? Or do you think this is a fluke? And is it maybe even possible that he lives up to the #1 pick and superstar hype? I seriously doubt it, but if Wiggins could become just a little bit disappointing rather than an outright bust, that would be great. So that's Andrew Wiggins and why he's playing so much better. It's either the things that I've mentioned or he's just pretending every team in the league is OKC now. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.